Okay, so we can go live as soon as they connect on you in the LinkedIn, YouTube. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Okay, sure. Okay. Prakash, most of the impermanent loss is covered well. Well, in a way, yes, but see, liquidity providing is a very complicated game and there are chances to lose a lot of money. Anyway, let's start off. So, hi guys, welcome. Today, the session is going to focus on blockchain APIs. It is part of the free Web3 developer course. I hope on my screen right now, you guys can see the page where it says for blockchain APIs. Just let me know, give me a quick yes. So I know that you guys can see the right page. I've also put the URL for this. So if you guys want to have that open, okay. So now the examples that I'm going to discuss today are using the free APIs provided by BlockCypher and Tatum. So I've given the links to both of their documentation area. So you can have a look at all the other APIs that they offer. Today we are going to focus on three kinds of APIs. So the first one is what we call as a chain API. So this is going to get us the latest general information about a blockchain. And this is the format that we use. So as you can see, it's fairly simple. Firstly, we are given a URL, right? So whoever provides you this service, they give you the URL to hit. When you get a get URL, it's very simple. They don't even require credentials. You just have to hit this particular URL. So https api.blockcipher.com/v1. And here, what I have shown in curly brackets, you are going to write the name of the blockchain there, /main. So for example, for Bitcoin, you would put in a BTC here. So now have a look at this link, api.blockcipher.com/v1/btc/main or ETH or LTC. Now the moment I click on this, here, now the data has opened up. Are you guys able to see that? Or is it still showing the earlier screen? Can you see a screen which says name btc.main? Okay, I get the problem. Just let me change the way in which I'm sharing my screen. One sec. Okay, now can you see the page? It should be just having some data, no background, awesome. So as we can see, what it shows us is the name of the chain is the Bitcoin mainnet. This is the height, that means this is the current most recent block number. This is the hash of the block, this is the time, and all the other information is available here. So this is a very simple way in which we can pull it. Now, obviously, your question is going to be that, okay, I'm pulling this information, but how am I displaying it on my application? So let me give you an example of that also. Yeah, just give me one sec. I'll open up the relevant page on my site. Yeah. So here what you can see is, I hope you guys can see something called generate paper wallets written here. Can you guys see that? Just give me a quick yes. If you can see generate paper wallets, yeah. So now this is an actual practical implementation. Now what happens is when I click on the word Bitcoin here, immediately you can see within my application, something has been put up here. Now I want to display it in this format where it says, okay, you have generated a paper wallet. This is the private key. This is the public key. This is the address and this is the WIF. Now, where is this actually coming from? So what I'm using is here, when we look at the basic wallet API, so this is the actual one that we could be using. So this says api.blockcipher.com/v1. Here we can put a BTC main ADDRS, right? So this is the way the code actually looks. And then when I actually see what is happening when I'm hitting the API provider, this is the way it shows me the information. But in my application, I can show it in such a way that it looks as if it is a part of my application, part of my UI. To do that, the code that we are using is again here. So I'm coding in PHP. I mean, I've always been a PHP developer, so even today I continue to use PHP. Here, we have a particular format which is provided by them. Here we are calling the URL, which I just explained to you. When I change the BTC here to any other crypto, Litecoin, Dogecoin, whatever, it will still work the same way. These are some standard commands I run. This is the response which is coming once we execute. This is closing the connection. So we are releasing the resources. And this is how I am echoing. So what I'm doing is I'm writing PRE here. So in HTML, that simply means whatever the input, it'll be just displayed without any additional formatting. And I'm using something called print underscore R JSON decode. So this will print the JSON decoded response. So when you look at this page, this which is showing up here is looking like a part of my interface because I'm calling it from an Ajax file and just displaying it here. So it's actually just that simple. Give me a quick guess if you guys understood what I'm trying to explain. Or if it's complicated, just ask me, I'll explain more. Okay, awesome. So you guys are getting it. So it's very, very simple. So what we have to do is we've got to figure out what is it that we want. So suppose we want to display data about the blockchain, then we would use this particular API. If we want to generate a basic wallet, then we are using this particular API. And it is the same way in which we are going to do for different blockchains. So here when I gave you an example, api.blockcipher.com, here you see a BTC written and here you see ETH written. That's the only thing that is changing. That is why we always recommend using an API approach so that tomorrow for whatever reason, if there is any problem in a particular chain and you want to shift your entire application to a new chain, it's extremely simple, as all that you need to do is change a few of the URLs that you're calling. You just change the blockchain name here and all instantly you are now able to interact and do work with another chain. Let me give you another example of an HD wallet. Have you guys ever heard of HD wallet? Abhishek's question is when we would be needing API. See, you need API almost everywhere, right? So whatever kind of application you are building, when it is connecting to the blockchain, you would always use APIs rather than directly trying to code anything into your application. So I'll give you an example. Now, when you look at something like MetaMask, I'm sure all of you guys have seen MetaMask, right? I'm sure most of you are users of it also. Give me a quick yes if you're using MetaMask. So now let's say that we want to create a wallet like MetaMask. How would we do it? What is the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about MetaMask? So the first thing that would come to us is we need to be able to generate addresses for people. So in MetaMask, I'm sure you guys have come across the concept of a seed phrase, which is a set of 12 or 24 or 48 words. Now the first point is, how do we generate this? So this is how it is done. So MetaMask is an HD wallet, hierarchical deterministic wallet. It contains keys in a tree structure. That means you have parent keys, which produce children keys, which make grandchildren keys, and it can go on infinitely. So all that you need to back up is a single master key phrase, which would be a series of words like this. So right now you can see the words are urge, pulp, usage, sister, going all the way to egg and abuse. Now remember one thing, you cannot guess these words. It is not like you can just take any normal English words and make a key. No, it doesn't work like that. These words follow a particular algorithm, and which word you are ending with also, there is a checksum which is happening. So if I just on my own use 12 English words and think that will work as a secret key, no, it doesn't work like that. So we need an algorithm to actually generate this. Now what we use is something called a BIP44. So this comes from the Bitcoin improvement proposal. So like in Ethereum, you have Ethereum improvement proposals. In Bitcoin, we have BIP. Now it works for almost every blockchain in the world. And what we are going to do in that is we have this particular code which is provided to us. So we don't have to write our own code. As far as possible, we should not write our own code because the chances of making mistakes are very high. So we use the code provided by the API service provider, which in this case is Tatum. So I have taken a free key from them. They have provided me this entire code. So they give you the code for different languages, for curl, for PHP, for JavaScript, for C++. They give you actual code snippets which you can use. So what we are doing in this particular code is, first of all, here you have to make a small chain and you have to put your API key. Then you call this URL. So here we are doing a URL, api-eu1.tatum.io. All this they have provided. In that, we are saying that we want to create it for Bitcoin and we want to create a wallet. Then all the other information. And now we see how do you want to echo that information. So now depending upon what you're creating, you would display this to the user in a nice looking interface. And when I run this code, it automatically generates for me. So I can see that when I hit this particular API, the response that comes to me is a mnemonic, which has these words here, and a public key corresponding to it, again, which is provided to us here. It's that simple. So even in an application like MetaMask, which may seem very difficult to us, and we realize that it needs a lot of security, the first point that you've got to understand is it's not difficult to build those, because all that we need to do is use these APIs to generate the key. Now I have a question for you guys. Suppose we are building an application for a wallet. The first time that a user comes, we create this key phrase for him. Now my question to you is, where are we going to save this? What do you guys think? Where are we going to save this? Okay, Yagnadeep, sure. So you remember we discussed, I think in one of the previous sessions, I think just last week, when we were doing coding basics. So right now on my screen, you can see that we were talking about web storage, right? So let me just click there to refresh it in your minds. So you remember at that time we talked about session storage and local storage. Session storage is available as long as the browser tab is open. The moment we close that, that particular data is lost. But no matter how many times we do a reload, it works. But if we want to keep it across sessions, then we use local storage. So even if the browser is closed and open, the data is going to be stored there. Now I have another question. Will we store this in the simple plain format, or will we encrypt and store this? What do you guys think? Yes, we encrypt. So again, if you recall, when we were discussing, I taught you guys something called AES. So encryption and decryption, we looked at something called the AES, or Advanced Encryption Standard. So we would use a combination of three things. Firstly, we would use the API to generate the seed. Next step, we would store that, we would use AES to encrypt it. And the third step, we would store that encrypted data, say, in the local storage. So when we do those three things, our first part of the application is ready. And as you can realize, we don't really have much of a security risk as far as our code is concerned, because we are following standard commands given to us by the API creators, and they're very well tested. And then again, we have to remember that when we use AES encryption, we have the plain text, we have a secret key, and we have the IV, or initialization vector. So now we can decide that one key can remain with the user, another can be stored separately, maybe even with us. I mean, it depends on how you're building your application. But using a combination of these, you can do something as difficult sounding as creating your own crypto wallet in a very simple format, in a very simple manner. That is the reason I keep saying only use APIs. Don't use anything other than that unless your application really requires it. Any questions? So is this part clear? All the code snippets, everything are available to you. So all that you guys need to do to try it out is just copy these codes and run it on your own websites, and everything is available. So here you can see that we have generated the seed key, and then we can show it to the user in a nice looking format. Now, if we want to see all the hierarchies of wallets, so in that, if we want to see each and every kind of blockchain which is supported, I've given you the link for that. And when we go there, it shows us all the different blockchains and their symbols here. So even the latest of chains will be supported. So as you can see, there are hundreds of them supported. Actually more than 1,000. Let me just take it to the bottom. So yeah, we have a huge number of them supported here. So you name a particular blockchain network and it supports HT wallets, and all the data is available to us. Now we can also do one thing, that we can generate a private key for an address from this seed phrase. So you know those words that are given to us. Now from that, if we want to generate private keys, we can do it. And again, we have a code for it provided to us. So all that we need to do is we need to use that particular code and we can generate the required private keys. So you know, this comes into the picture when the user has deleted the wallet by mistake. And now you want the user to be able to recover the wallet. So we have told the user that you need to maintain your seed. So when the user enters in those seed words, we are able to recreate the wallet. Yagnadeep says, does Hi-Fi have its own wallet, or we should build from ground if we want to build dApps on Hi-Fi? So Yagnadeep, the way in which Hi-Fi is meant to function is that it is not a publicly permissionless available blockchain like an Ethereum. It's a permission blockchain for KYC use cases only. So we allow people to get onboarded. Once you're onboarded, you can build your own very, very easily. And we have also built one which again can be used. But it is not something which is available to the general public. Because for us, the KYC anti-money laundering is the most important thing. We are only doing regulated use cases. So it's a little different in there. Is this part absolutely clear to you guys? Any questions? So just to quickly revise, we need to remember the web storage. We need to remember the cryptography and the encryption decryption we spoke about. And then we need to use the APIs. Now, another thing that I want you to remember when it comes to these APIs, it's not like there are just these three things available to you. Whatever use case you can imagine, you're going to be able to do it here. So let's take an example. I've gone to the documentation page of Tatum, which is the one we are using here. You can generate a wallet. You can generate an address from the wallet's public. All these features are available. Can you see the number of them available to you? So here, for whatever you want to do, the code is also available to you. So if you want it in curl, JavaScript, Python, PHP, Go, and C#, all the code is given to you. You can just copy from here. And if you want, you can even try it from here. So you just click on this button and you will be able to do a test check. So in fact, if we want to do something like, let's say storing data, let me just look for it. Give me a second. Yeah, can you see even key management systems are there? IPFS. So suppose we want to store some data to IPFS on the interplanetary file system. So here they've given us the entire code for it. And if you want to try it, so here it tells us how you can try it. So here you can just choose a file. It'll pick it up from wherever you want, and then you can submit it onto the IPFS. It will return the hash address, and then you can use the hash address to actually get the file back also. So each of these commands, you can try them out on their interface, and then depending upon which language you're using, you can take the code and build your own application. Abhishek's question is, can we create MetaMask-like wallet compatible with Bitcoin? So MetaMask focuses only on the EVM compatible chains. So it supports all the Polygon, Binance, Smart Chain, Ethereum. It will not support Bitcoin. It will not support Solana. For Bitcoin, we have separate ones. For Solana, you have separate ones. But you can always have wallets which support multiple chains. There is no problem on that. You can build it. Yeah. So in fact, that is a good use case. I mean, when you want to try to build a wallet that works for all kinds of things. Now here, it depends on what is it that you're trying to do. So do you want to like create your own wallet like MetaMask, or do you want to create an interface where people can come and they can create the paper wallets, and then they can go to any other place and use that software? So it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you simply want them to be able to create it, just run the API and show them the result, they can print it out. So that means you are helping people create paper wallets. If you're making a full-fledged application, then you would put it into your UI. But then you also got to remember something very important here. How are you going to authenticate people? So for example, when you guys look at MetaMask, what is the method of authentication that MetaMask uses? Can someone tell me? Password, correct. So they have a password, and when you enter that password, then you can access all the different keys that you have created. Right? Again, not very difficult. In your example, you can consider that maybe that password is what is decrypting the data stored in the local browser, and from there you're running it. Now, if the user goes and deletes that data without having backed it up, they may end up losing all the seed phrases, which is the reason we make them write it down, right? And then if they're going to encrypt it, we need to tell them to store the password also carefully. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Kirti is unable to hear me. Are the rest of you able to hear me? Can you give me a, oh, we can hear, that's awesome. Then like this example, I'm showing you how to use IPFS. So where does IPFS come into the picture? Give me a reason. Why do we even need to use IPFS? So there are two reasons. Firstly, blockchains are not built to handle data. And second, yes, Yagnadeep, if you want to store large amounts of data, blockchain is not suitable. We have to use something else. Now, one option to us is cloud storage. We could use something like Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Azure Cloud, but that's expensive. In my experience, decentralized cloud storage is much cheaper. So if we want to use it, now we also know that when we use IPFS, we just get a hash and that represents the data and we can find it using that. So when we, let me see what we can use. Okay, so I've created this post. So I can just open that post here. I have put this particular file called highest paying tech jobs in India. And then I can say next. So let's give it some time. Okay, so now it says that, let's look down, it has stored this and I can see the data, the IPFS hash is now shown to me. Now in IPFS, what we have to remember is it is not location based URL. So for example, in the normal world, in the Web 2 world, when we store data, everything is based on a location. So if you are storing something on your computer, it could say C:\/ C drive, D drive, E drive, whatever is the drive name. When we talk about websites, so there is going to be a URL. But when we store data on the IPFS, we get a hash like this. This is not dependent upon the location. This is dependent upon the content. So every piece of content generates its own hash, which kind of uniquely represents that. Now, if we want to recover our data, which we have uploaded, we can use this get file from IPFS. So let's go here and check it out. So here, when we want to get the file, okay, so let's go and try it. Okay, now here, unfortunately, it should work. So here, as you can see, they have entered the hash here. Let's send and let's hope it works. Okay, so here it shows us, okay. So this particular file, this particular hash that they've entered is by default, they entered something that happens to be a PNG file. So obviously when I try to read it in a text format, it's going to show like this. But if we download it, a proper PNG file will open. So if I edit the request here and in the parameters, let's hope. Give me a second. Here, can you see that the file which we had uploaded has opened up and all the data is readable by us in a plain text format because it was a text file that I uploaded. Have you guys understood? Just give me a quick yes. We've seen how to store the data on the IPFS, get the hash, and then recover the data. So now let's say that we were going to implement this into some application that we are building. So what would we do? In the first step, we would take the input from the user and we would send that to IPFS. We would get a hash in response. That is something we need to store. So we will store it in some database of us because there is nothing confidential about the hash. Then whenever the user comes the next time and wants to recover that file, we will just pull the hash out from our database, hit IPFS and bring this back to us. Abhishek's question is, where is the data stored? So are you aware of something called Filecoin? So Filecoin is one of the projects. So Filecoin is the incentive layer for IPFS. So when we go to Filecoin, people can use it to provide data storage services, right? So what happens is that Filecoin is like the Airbnb for data storage. So if anybody has extra space for a particular time, they can rent it out and then your data goes and gets stored. So it's stored in a very decentralized fashion. And to recover your data, all that you need is the hash. And that is the reason when we talk about IPFS, we are not doing location based. We don't even know where it is being stored. But whenever we need to recover the data, we need to provide that particular hash to get the data. It's fairly easy to use. I mean, right now we just did that, right? We uploaded it and downloaded it back completely free of cost using their demo system. Obviously, the one thing that we've got to remember is when we implement this on our own, we have to build our own form, right? So where people can come and a user can click on that, button for uploading the file. So we just need to build a simple form for that. And this is a post request, obviously, because the data also has to go. And depending upon the API service provider, you would need to enter your API key every time that you do something. So usually for GET requests, we don't need keys. It is usually only for POST. And even though you're using your key, for many times, the free accounts work. It is only when you exceed the number of requests per second and all, then you need to go for a paid account. But definitely for learning and even a basic POC application, you don't need to bother. You can very easily do it with the free account. Any questions? So let me quickly, yeah. So great, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So now again, like kind of a homework, why don't you guys try building an application of your own? You can use BlockCypher, Tatum, they've got a whole bunch of things. So make a simple application. One step is for the front end of this application, just get a free Bootstrap HTML template, right? So it'll have a nice looking interface. So you don't have to waste your time on the HTML part. So you just download this, just Google for free Bootstrap HTML templates. Once you get that template, then you integrate the code into it for generating addresses, BIP44 wallets, IPFS, whatever you want to do. So when you use a Bootstrap template, the form will already be available to you. You just connect the form to the API so that when anybody comes to that template and they upload a file, it actually goes to IPFS and shows you the response. So try that as a homework, and that will give you a very good practical experience on using APIs. And then while you're doing it, there are so many other APIs that you can use very easily. Any questions? All good? So if there are no other questions, then great. I'll see you next Friday. And if you guys have time, definitely hang on and come back at 4 o'clock for my session on Learn DAO. Trust me, there's going to be lots of very interesting things that I want to talk to you guys about. Yagnadeep, has the Hi-Fi Weekly stopped for a little while? We're just waiting for our regulatory approvals to come through, and then we'll be going back to starting our own ones. But today for the 4 o'clock session, I'm doing the Learn DAO. Vivan, would you be able to post the link here? See, if you guys are anyway following me on Creator, you'll get a notification, but Vivan can put that. Okay, about watching this video again. So what happens is whenever I stream here, it automatically goes to my LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So you guys can go there and watch the recording. Yeah, for the Learn DAO, so Vivan has put the link here, so you guys can just use that. Or the simplest is if you're following me on Creator, you'll automatically get a WhatsApp message in the next few minutes to join in. So I hope a lot of you guys are going to do this homework. And if possible, by next Friday's session, if you guys do this, then I'd like to call some of you guys online live and demo what you've made. Does it sound interesting to you guys? So Vivan is also rolling out some very interesting features in Creator where we can do collaborative coding. So Vivan, by when can we expect that to be available to all of us? Vivan, would you be able to share that with us? 3 weeks. Oh, okay, no problem. So in 3 weeks, we're going to have some very cool collaborative coding interfaces available here on Creator. But in the meanwhile, I'd love if we can demo some of the stuff that you guys make next week. So this happens every Friday, this session. So next Friday, I hope to demo some of your codes. So great, all the best, and I'll see you guys at 4 p.m. Bye-bye. Yeah, Vivan, thanks for putting the URL.